As a very brief introduction to the Intel Edison kit for Arduino, the expansion board has the following connectors: a barrel connector for DC power supplies, a standard-sized USB connector, and 2 micro USB connectors. While plugging in every cable is not required at every moment, a cable setup to get started with Intel Edison development would look like this. I will now go through each of these connections and explain when and how to use them. The top micro USB connector is multifunctional. Use this connector for 5-volt power, programming the Intel Edison using the Arduino IDE, programming the Intel Edison via Ethernet over USB when Wi-Fi is not available, and writing to the onboard flash memory from your computer. To put the Intel Edison in device mode, slide the microswitch down towards the micro USB ports if it isn't already. Plug a micro USB cable into the top micro USB connector on the expansion board. Connect the other end of the USB cable to your computer. A green LED should light up on the expansion board. Wait 1 minute for the Intel Edison to finish booting up. Use the bottom micro USB port to send serial commands to your Intel Edison via terminal or PuTTY. Use these commands to flash firmware, configure Wi-Fi, or identify the board's IP address. Plug a second micro USB cable into the bottom micro USB connector on the expansion board. Connect the other end of the USB cable to your computer. Once your Intel Edison is online and has an addressable IP address, you may find it more convenient to SSH into your board to run Linux commands. In that case, you will not need the micro USB serial cable on a regular basis. A direct current power supply is not always required for the Intel Edison, but if you're going to use more power-intensive features such as Wi-Fi, a servo motor, or an Arduino shield, use a DC power supply in addition to the device mode micro USB cable. The 7 to 15 volt DC power supply could be plugged into the wall or be part of a battery pack. Connect the power supply to the Intel Edison via the barrel connector. When using DC power, if you don't need the device mode cable for programming, you can unplug it at this time. Same for the serial cable. When the Intel Edison is in USB host mode, the Intel Edison can accept computer peripherals such as mice, keyboards, and even webcams. To put the Intel Edison into host mode, slide the microswitch up towards the standard-sized USB port if it isn't already. USB host mode requires the use of an external power supply, so plug in the DC power supply to the barrel connector. You can now plug a USB peripheral with a standard-sized USB connector into the USB port on the expansion board. Now that you have a better idea of what cables to use and when, watch the shell access video to learn how to gain command line access of your board. If you're on Windows, you will need to install drivers beforehand, so watch the Windows setup video first.